Welcome everyone to the Rush to Fail podcast. I'm your host, BJ Gremillion, and I'm extremely excited to finally launch this podcast. It's been several years in the making. I actually recorded a podcast a couple years ago, and it never saw the light of day. So this year, going into 2023, I committed to definitely record a podcast, several podcasts, and actually launch them in Q1. And so here we are. It's going to be probably the very last day of Q1 that this will go live. But I'm incredibly excited and grateful to have this opportunity to do something that my wife has told me for years and years that I needed to start a podcast. And I think it comes from, I just have so many experiences and stories of things that anyone else probably would throw in the towel and would think this probably is not their line of business. But for me, the theme of the podcast, Rush to Fail, it's centered around failure, right? But not in a negative way. In fact, it's the exact opposite. I think failure is our greatest teacher. And for me, that's the only way I've ever been able to learn. And so I decided to start this podcast also because I want to bring in people from all walks of life, not just in real estate, which is, obviously my career. But I want to talk to everyone because everyone can share in this experience of laughing about our failures and then, learning from them and finding ways to find wisdom that will, come from making those mistakes. So it will apply to everyone. My goal is to send out a podcast every week, and the length of time is going to be around 30, 45 minutes. And so if you're on a drive to work and you are looking for something to listen to, and you want to laugh about someone else's failures, and make yourself feel a little bit better maybe, and hopefully learn some wisdom, that's what this is here for. So I want to tell you just a little bit about myself, my background, and then we'll get into another big reason why I started this podcast. So I come from a family of 8 children, 2 amazing parents, 4 boys, 4 girls. I am number 4. I have 3 older sisters, and so had an amazing childhood. My parents instilled a lot of amazing principles in my life that I appreciate more than ever today, especially now that I am a father. And so had a great childhood, but interestingly enough, hated school and was never good at it. And in fact, I graduated high school with a 2.8 GPA. And my mom, I'm pretty sure, filled out my entire college application, and she somehow got me into BYU, Idaho. And so they took a risk on me, a flyer. They put me in summer school and said, look, if you get good enough grades, you can stay, essentially. And so it was interesting, though, when I went to college and all of a sudden I was able to pick the classes I wanted to learn, and I was away from home. All of a sudden it clicked. I enjoyed learning. And so now the main way that I'm able to learn is through audiobooks and podcasts. And I think a lot of people are in a similar situation as I am. And so I attribute a lot of my any success that I have. A lot of it actually has come from podcasts, little nuggets that I learn on a weekly basis, listening to different people and their experiences. And so I hope to share some experiences, with everyone else, so that you guys can also hopefully learn from others, because that's really the whole, purpose of this podcast. And so fast forward, after college at BYU, Idaho, I ended up going on a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. When I opened up, you receive your calling by mail at that time. And, at the time I just said, look, I don't care where I go as long as it's not cold. And I opened that up, and sure enough, I'm going to Anchorage, Alaska. So if anyone doesn't think that, Heavenly Father has a sense of humor, you got to look at that. So, but it ended up being the best thing that's ever happened to me. It was a fantastic experience. I think about it often. I'm grateful for that experience. In fact, it was the experience of that I think set me up for eventually meeting my wife at BYU, Idaho. It was my last semester there. It was her first semester, and I was getting a little nervous there that I was going to leave without a ring on my finger. And thankfully she came around at the absolute perfect time, and I thought there was absolutely zero chance that she would ever date a guy like me. She was so far out of my league that it's really kind of funny still to this day to think that I'm almost convinced that she's partially blind or something. I don't know. I can't figure it out. I waited until after we got married, funny enough, to have her get LASIK surgery, just because I wasn't sure if it was going to really affect her decision. So, but no, I hit the lottery. She is the greatest wife and mother, and she has provided me with 5 amazing children. And so over the last 15 years, I have been able to feed those children with my career in real estate. And so my endeavors in real estate, it's had a lot of twists and turns. And I was very fortunate to work with a business partner and several other guys that we worked together for about a dozen years, and built and grew several, 7-figure businesses, and, had a good time doing that. And then funny enough, 2020 hit, and I thought that might be the nail in the coffin. When it very first happened, I was really nervous in March. But we ended up having one of our best years ever, and I was very surprised by that. I was not, however, prepared for 2022. And that's kind of where this whole podcast actually comes from. It comes out of that experience in 2022. Like most people that were in real estate, and we're still going through it, obviously, this year as well. But we were hit hard. Arizona is a market that is very investor centric, and it seems like there's a lot of money that came here from California, and a lot of Wall Street money. And things were great, obviously, and it just kept going up, and you would think that it'll never go down, and you just don't have any idea that anything's bad gonna ever happen. And so we just kept going and going until March and April, and all of a sudden it started slowing down more and more. And for the first time, I realized in my career, I was facing something that I had not ever experienced before, and that was fear. And it was just panic. I've never had issues sleeping. I've never had issues ever with anxiety or anything like that. But this humbled me. It brought me to my knees. There were a lot of nights that I did not sleep. And I just, it was scary. And really, it just came down to the entire real estate market essentially just hit pause. Nobody was buying, nobody was selling. So the issue with that, of course, is we have a business with immense overhead, and there's mouths to feed, and that's not going away. It was still very, very much so hungry. The expenses just kept adding up. And so it really did get to a point where I think we had to make really difficult decisions. And so last year, I joke about it, but I'm pretty sure I lived about a decade in 1 year. And I had so many lessons that came away from that. And I wouldn't wish it on anyone, honestly. But at the same time, as I'm going through it, I kept telling myself, I know that there's going to be some good that will come from this. I know that there's got to be something good. Sure enough, really towards the end of 2022 and the start of this year, 2023, I started to see the wisdom and the blessings that come from hardship. And it was hard. I'm still going through it. It's not like I'm out of the weed by any means. But I think I have learned, though, first of all, to be humble, and to realize that recessions can hit at any moment. And I have a lot more empathy for people that have gone through similar situations as we have. But really, that experience led me here today. And I've now, I'll fast forward a little bit. To make a long story even longer, in 2021, I started buying real estate in the Southeast, so Tennessee and Georgia. Reason being is because Arizona, the market had become so hot that it was very difficult to find anything that you could cash flow. And so investments were hard to come by. So we were forced to just find a different market that would make sense, really just selfishly for us, for investment properties. So I became familiar with that market. We were buying homes. And then, as things accelerated in 2022 and it became very apparent that we need to find a different way of doing business because there was just no longer a way to flip or wholesale homes and, anything that was new construction, all of that really was just, you couldn't do anything with it in Arizona specifically. So we had to find some way to make money. And so I went to a mastermind. I'm part of a group called the Collective Genius. It's with a bunch of real estate investors that come from across the nation, and they all have different, business models and that. So one of the presentations came from a guy named Jimmy Vreeland. And Jimmy, he is in the Midwest, and he's been doing a turnkey business for 5 or 6 years, maybe longer. I'm not really sure. But the thing that stood out to me with his presentation was really his demeanor. He was the most calm person in the room. And this was, towards the, second and third quarter of 2022, where everyone all of a sudden now is really in panic mode and we're worried and we don't know what's going to go on. He was one of the few people that honestly was just as cool as ever. And he had no worries at all. He got up and gave a presentation, and the minute he explained what the business model was that he was doing, the light bulb went off for me. It clicked. And I knew right then and there, okay, that is where I need to be. That's what I need to be doing. I don't even know how to set that up, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to talk to him more about it. And that's the whole reason why I'm in that group was to lean on others' experience and hopefully learn from them and then create something of our own. So he was instrumental in that. And there's been several other mentors in that group since that have helped me on that journey. But really they helped show me, okay, here's another business model that I think is going to be recession proof. And it's going to be something that will last, for through thick and thin. Doesn't matter where the market goes. The problem, however, with that business model is it's in a different state, and it's in Eastern time zone. And so of course I have 5 kids and a wife that loves Arizona, born and raised. And so it was a difficult conversation. Initially I told her, hey, we're not gonna have to worry about me traveling a lot. And she knew, but she still let me, think that and, go along with it. And really, honestly, the person that's had to sacrifice more than anyone else, and it's not even close, is my wife, because we have twin 2-year-olds right now. We have a 5-year-old, and then we have a 10 and a 12-year-old. And so those 3 are a handful right now. And so the fact that she's at home without me a lot of the days is very difficult for me to put her in that situation. And but she could not be more supportive. And the thing that I love, I could go on and on about all the things I love about my wife, but one of the things that stood out to me that I will never forget was when all of this was going down, and I was, of course, very negative, very frustrated, very emotional. She never worried, and she would tell me that all the time. She's like, I'm not worried about you. I know you're going to figure it out, and you're going to do well. She's like, the minute I married you, I never I didn't even know what I was going to do when I married her, by the way. I just picked a job just to say I had one, to tell my father-in-law so he didn't have to worry about it. But I truly didn't know what I wanted to do. But she's always had this faith and belief in me that I don't know if I see in myself, but somehow she does. And so I love her for that. And just she's supported me through. That's when I learned that it's not about the money for her. She just wanted me to be happy. She wanted our family to be happy. And so if it was going to be in this, then great. She would support me. And so there's just so much that I learned from her example, and I hope to be able to repay that to her, because I know that she, again, is the one that is sacrificing the most as we're trying to transition and figure this out. But I now have a team in Tennessee. We do run a turnkey business model, which is essentially we help people find real estate in Tennessee and Georgia, specifically like the Chattanooga market within about a 25, 30-mile radius of there. We help people find income producing properties. We then have a remodel crew that remodels them. And then we have a property management company that will, once it's completed, we'll rent it out. And then really it's intended to be hands off. So the term turnkey is just that. It's meant to be like, okay, it's hands off. And so it's a white glove treatment that we offer to our investors. And so to do this model, it is time consuming. It is operations heavy. And so there's a lot of moving parts that you just have to have boots on the ground. You have to understand, what's going on. You have to understand the market. You have to make sure you're buying the right properties at the right price. And so there was a lot to learn, and we've gone through a lot in the past year. I now have a team out there, and it's fun so I now go out there, basically 3 to 4 nights out of a month, is kind of our arrangement that I have with my wife. And so, she would let me go more, of course, but again, we try and be cognizant of that. So that's what we're doing right now, and who knows where it will lead. We might end up going to Tennessee, might stay here. It's all kind of up in the air still. But I tell you all of this really because now I'm at a place in life. I just turned 40. And that was a big deal for me. It's a mind shift. I can't believe that there's a 4 in front of the 0. That's a big deal. But I think that when I hit that number, for whatever reason, I realized, okay, now it's time to kind of kick it in gear and make sure that my family is set up, and that also I can start giving back and sharing with other people all the lessons that I've learned the hard way. And really I've made every mistake. I've bought thousands of homes. We've flipped thousands of homes. And there's so many things I did wrong, and there's so many lessons that I learned from that. And so my hope is that I can then share that, some of those experiences with those that are, and not just looking to get into real estate maybe, but there's a lot of life lessons that I learned as well, business lessons. And so I'm going to definitely sprinkle in some of those experiences that I have. But really the purpose of this show is just to give me an excuse to meet with amazing people that have had great lives and careers from all different walks of life. And I want to learn from them, and I want to extrapolate all those little gems that they've learned along the way from making those, decisions that may not have been great at the time, and then learning from them, and then having the wisdom to share with other people so that hopefully the next generation can learn from that and maybe not make those same mistakes and just, improve little by little. And so that really has been my focus over, this year. Is really just, okay, how can I give back? How can I, share some of these experiences? And so I really am enjoying this. I love podcasts. I've listened to them. I've been a consumer for a very long time. I'm excited to finally be a creator and to produce shows that hopefully will, again, bring value, and, others will see that, there's value there. So I'm very excited to officially launch the Rush to Fail podcast. The name of our company is Property Rush, which is part of the reason why I named the podcast Rush to Fail, but it definitely fits very well with who I am. And so I'm excited for all of you to follow along on this journey with me, and look forward to what's to come.